And this spells bad news for Microsoft's Office software. Google Desktop is free, and it lets you search your own computer as fast as Google searches the internet. And just to show off, it even lets you read documents you've deleted.
I've had numerous people email me and tell me that Desktop saved their life because it saved an article or an essay that they were working on that was due within a few hours. They were able to recover it with Google Desktop.
And there's another idea which could throw a spanner in the works, this time of the TV and movie businesses.
Hi, I'm Mary. And I'm Carla. And you've just tuned into the MK Show. MK!
Google Video lets users upload their own home videos.
I'm independently wealthy.
At the moment, it's free, but Google plans to let program makers charge people for watching. That will attract TV professionals and let them sell direct to their audience, bypassing the main channels.
People will be able to find content very quickly through search. They'll be able to see it and say, yes, this is something I actually want to buy. They'll be able to buy it, and then Google will send the majority of that revenue to the content owner.
It is now starting to roll out a number of services that make it clear that its intention is to make it possible for people to buy and sell things directly between them, like eBay, or to purchase things like video and media the way Amazon makes it possible.
Google's rapid production of new ideas is worrying for its high-tech rivals. But its growing power may also be a concern for every Google user. Pam Dixon thinks we should all be anxious about Google. Not about the information it gives out, but the information it takes in when we ask it questions. Although Google doesn't know users' names and addresses, it recognises their computers and gives each computer a unique identity.
If you have typed in 10,000 search terms over, 15 years on Google, that'll all be organized under that identification. If you have done anything else on Google, looked at maps, for example, it's all under that one thing. So it's like a dossier of sorts.
This isn't a subject Google enjoys talking about, as we found when we asked for confirmation that they do keep those kind of records.
Like most internet companies, we do have records of what types of activities have been done on our site, and we are subject to legal standards.
That's a yes, I think.
So what's the problem if there are records of your Google searches? Well, supposing you were wrongly accused of a crime, the police could, in theory, demand your search records and might see you'd been searching for all sorts of weird stuff you never thought anyone could find out about.
I think we're going to see some spectacular cases over the next 5 or 10 years that are not necessarily going to be about Google per se, but are going to be about this issue of our information as it relates to things we are looking for on the web, places we go after we find them, what we do when we're there. All of that information can be saved, recorded, archived, subpoenaed, tracked, and used against you or for you.
They're such a popular third party. They're such a popular service. We're giving them so much information. And information is power in the information age.
Even Google admits that however careful it is about privacy, using its search engine is not an entirely private activity.
Just like in the real world, it's hard to undo an action. The same thing is true on the internet. And so we do need users to be aware that there are records and ramifications.
Most of the problems, like privacy, created by the power and influence of Google are the kind of growing pains you might expect. After all, there hasn't been a business quite like it before. But there is one problem which actually threatens the Google money-making machine itself. It's potentially a fatal flaw in their clever ad system, which comes from the way that every time you, the punter, click on an ad over here, the company whose ad you're clicking has to pay Google. John Carreras advertised his small business on Google, believing every click on his ad was from a potential customer. But then he became suspicious. What if people were clicking his ad just to make him pay Google? It's a tactic called click fraud.
I was spending on an average, I'd say between $5,000 to $7,000 per month, and I suspected half of that was click fraud.
So what made John think he was a victim of click fraud? Well, when he was at a trade show in Las Vegas, John noticed the number of clicks on his Google ads went right down.
I was at the show for 3 days, and all of my competitors were there at the same time with me. After the show, when all my competitors got back to their office in front of their desks, my suspicions came true.
John's Google bill trebled immediately. He's convinced his competitors were clicking maliciously on his ad. It's a disturbing possibility for Google, whose success depends on its ad system. Last year, Google executive George Reyes made headlines saying click fraud was the biggest threat to the internet economy. Today, the official line is more reassuring.
It is a serious problem for us, but it is also a very solvable problem. It turns out that trends in click fraud and the way that these types of clicks are often executed are easy to find. We work very hard not to bill our advertisers for clicks that may result from fraud.
Ironically, John Carreras has made use of his experience, starting a business selling software to detect click fraud. For the moment, no one really knows what proportion of clicks are fraudulent.
Right now, advertisers are getting such a good return on their investment, it doesn't matter to them whether it's 5% or 30%. They're still making money every dollar they spend into the advertising platform. They're getting more than $1 back in sales, right? So they don't care. There's going to be a point at which the two cross. And when that comes, I think that's when the rubber will meet the road and we'll see what the truth is here about how much fraud there is in the system.
Say you want a revolution.
5 years ago, Larry and Sergey were happy to be filmed hanging out with the staff in the Google canteen. Today, they keep a low media profile, except when duty demands. Despite their huge wealth, they still like to think of themselves as computer geeks. As Google's own website tells us about Sergey, with an apparently straight face, he is currently on leave from the PhD program in computer science at Stanford University. Sure.
There are two things that are occurring with the founders of the company. One is the crushing weight of wealth, just having $11 billion. And trying to figure out what that means as a person. It turns you into a rock star, it turns you into a person that you weren't before. Even if you want to fight it, I'm sorry, you have $11 billion. And then there's the crushing weight of the social responsibility of being Google, which is, a company that is changing the world and is expected to act accordingly. And those two things combined can't help but make a person a little bit crazy.
Google's stock is performing spectacularly, more than quadrupling in value in less than 2 years, making the company worth almost $140 billion.
The outside world sees the success. Those of us who are inside know the many different challenges and know the many different possible failure points and risks that are available, and it still keeps us motivated to work very hard and make sure that Google can execute as best it can, and that's what we focus on.
In just 7 years, Google has gone from a clever little internet tool spread by word of mouth to a global brand that's almost impossible to ignore. The trouble is, the more it expands, the more it finds itself in direct competition with the likes of Microsoft, eBay and Amazon, some of the biggest companies on the planet. And it's those battles that will decide the future of the world, according to Google. Next week on the Money Programme, there are now more women millionaires than men in some age groups. We meet this new generation of rich women and look at how they're doing it, and ask whether this female financial revolution is here to stay.